Hello everybody, I'm Roxy and this is Wreck Me BS. If you see something white popping up there, I'm sorry, that is my dog. Ignore him, as well as his little steps as he moves around my apartment. Thank you. So today I'm recording with my phone instead of my camera, just because my camera takes a long time to set up. You know, the tripod and seeing that it's in focus, and it's usually not in focus, which ruins the video, etc, etc. It's terrible. And so if you've noticed, I haven't been able to put any booktube videos in a long while, and that's heartbreaking for me because I really enjoy making them, and I just have been missing out, really. I feel that way, and I want to come back and make the whole process more efficient, and so luckily recording with my phone will help with that. Anyways, let's get on to the video, which is a very strange video, I'll admit. It's a Nonfiction November TBR for December. So in case you don't know, Nonfiction November is a month-long reading event hosted by a Book Olive and Nonfic Books. I'm going to leave their announcement videos for this year's event down below. And they basically are urging you to pick up at least one nonfiction book or one nonfiction book additionally as your normal reading. Some people choose to read only nonfiction during November, or complete the challenges that they give you, etc. So in the past, I have made nonfiction November TBRs. I'll put those links down below. But the thing is, I never really get to participate because November is my finals month. And so this year I did a Bookstagram post, I'll link that also down below, where I showed 3 nonfiction graphic novels that I'm going to talk about in another video, plus another nonfiction book that I got to read in November as my whole TBR. So not considering the challenges, just trying to pick up some nonfiction, you know, which I did. I read all those 4 books, so I'm very happy about it. But I didn't get to do the challenges, and I love the challenges, especially this year where instead of just one-word challenges, you had like pairs of word challenges. I thought that was so clever, and I really wanted to do it, and I have so many good nonfiction books that I want to read that fit the challenges, and so I was like, screw it, I'm doing it in December. It is a bit much, but unless something comes up unexpectedly, I should have time to read all these books. Let's see how it goes. So the first pair of words was self and shelf. And so starting with shelf, I have 2 books that have been forever in my shelves. The first one is Just My Type by Simon Garfield. And this is a book about fonts. I've read like 3 chapters of this already, and it's just so delightful to read. It's so great. It's very easy to get into. It talks about Comic Sans and the invention of the print and all those great awesome things that if you're very nerdy or if you are a designer, you might be interested in. I also have a book that, no kidding, I showed you 2 years ago. The Invention of Ireland by Declan Kibbard. I've been dipping in and out of this very, very long book for a long time. This is about the relationship between the Irish literary revival. I wanted to say the revival movement, and the political and social situation in Ireland with the independence and all of that back in the 19th and early 20th century. And it's fascinating. It's also very readable for what it is, but it is big physically, so it's difficult to carry around, especially because I interact a lot with it. I write things in the margins, I highlight things, so it's a very hard book for me to find time to read, or the proper time to read it. So yeah, but again, like, it's perfect to read now that I'll be on vacation. Also, this is by Declan Kibbard, who is one of the most important Irish studies professor ever, and he's coming to Chile, and I'm so excited. I also have After Ireland by him, which is the continuation of this book, and I want to have them signed because he's awesome. And yeah. Then for the self part, I have an assortment of books. I don't know what you'll make of them, but let's get on with it. First, I have Ice Bear by Kiran Mulvani, and the subtitle for this is A Natural and Unnatural History of the Polar Bear. and it is what it says. I've always been fascinated by bears, but especially by polar bears. I love polar bears. It breaks my heart that they are dying out. So I picked up this book because I want to know more about them. I also have Between Women, Friendship, Desire, and Marriage in Victorian England by Sharon Marcus. And I already started this and it's fascinating. It talks about the different sort of relationships that women had back in Victorian times and how they have been widely misunderstood by social studies. It's a very comprehensive book. I've only read the introduction so far and it's fascinating. This year I've been particularly interested in like homosocial relationships, both platonic and not, and how different societies have taken different stances. This is a book that hits very near and dear to my heart, and so I just can't wait to check it out. I also have Jane Austen Alive by Claire Tomalin, and I love Jane Austen. I haven't read all her books. I will probably next year, but she was the first author that I loved and the first one who made me realize there was more literature beyond what I was reading back then, which were mostly children's books. Also, Emma was the first book I ever read with the main character that really spoke to my heart, which is also kind of terrible because lots of people really hate Emma, but what can you do? I know lots about Jane Austen. I've even been to her museum in Bath, but I've never read a biography of her, and I have 2 books about like her works and like the social context of her works, but I've never read a biography on her, and so this is that book. I checked it out from the library, but probably if I like it, I will get a copy for myself. Then I also have The Penguin Guide to Literature in English, Britain and Ireland by Ronald Carter and John McRae. I've already started this and it is like shorter than a normal companion, but I'm still very happy with it because it's sort of a summary and introduction, and usually these sorts of books have lots of reference to other books, and I'm always on the lookout for that. I'm the equivalent of an English major. I mean, I'm still studying, but that is sort of the program I'm in, although here in Chile it is a bit different since we also focus on English as a foreign language in teaching and translation. So literature is not only part of who I am as a professional and as a person, but it's also a big important pastime. And so moving on to the second set of questions, we have pastime as in a hobby and pastime as in, you know, former times. For one that actually fulfills both, I have Travel Writing, the Cambridge Companion to Travel Writing, edited by Peter Holm and Tim Youngs. And this is basically a compilation of essays like most Cambridge Companions in relations to travel writing and how influential it was and the social context that sort of propelled the explosion of this genre. And in the last 2 years, I've become fascinated by travel writing, but although there's so much of it, I sort of don't know where to begin, and I'm in this constant tension between the classics and some newer stuff, and I just want something that can tie everything and also contextualize it a bit for me. As I've mentioned, I love literary studies, so this is perfect. Then I have The Secret Sisterhood by Emily Midorigawa and Emma Claire Sweeney, with a foreword by Margaret Atwood. And this says The Hidden Friendships of Austen, Bronte, Eliot, and Woolf. So this is also related, I guess, to the Between Women book. It says Jane Austen and Anne Sharp, Charlotte Bronte and Mary Taylor, George Eliot and Harriet Beecher Stowe, and Catherine Mansfield and Virginia Woolf. Then the next pair is Wander, as in, you know, go around, and Wander as, oh wow, that is a terrible explanation. And I guess this also works for Wander, but I have a related book called The Philosophy of Walking by Frederick Gross. I've become very interested in walking and like the politics and philosophies of walking, and you know, flanusing, Michel de Certeau, Charles Baudelaire, of course, and all those sort of influences. And so I saw this book and it was like, I have to read it. For Wander, I have Unmentionable by Therese O'Neill. And so, The Victorian Lady's Guide to Sex, Marriage, and Manners. I read the introduction and it was hilarious, and so I'm very interested in reading the rest. And this is basically what it says. It is presented as a guide, but basically talks about how ladies dealt with things that you perhaps wouldn't see in a Victorian novel, such as periods and like sickness and all those sort of things. And this really appeals to my sense of wonder, and also I just wonder how they did it. The only book I don't have here is a short essay collection, The Pleasures of Japanese Literature. I make sure to reread this book every year. This is a collection of essays that Donald King did for the general public. Most of them were in the Library of New York, but I know there were some others someplace else. But they were compiled into this book, which basically sets the basis for Japanese literature studies and aesthetics, and it's very approachable. It's, again, general public, it's not academic stuff, but when I read it the first time, it really made me think of aesthetics in a different way. And although I've always been very interested in Japanese literature, I never knew how to approach it in this way, and it's just a fascinating book, and I would literally recommend it to anyone. That sense of wonder will never cease with that book. Micro and macro. And so for that, I have one that actually is good for both. This is the Spanish version of Economy, A User's Manual by Ha-Jung Chang. And this really talks about economy historically, but also pragmatically and as it is in the present day. So it does a review of how our current economic system came to be, and also like things that you should know, and it's told in this really brief but comprehensive chapters, and it's just very approachable, and its mission is to make people more educated about their finances, which I think it's so important. And then I have a book that I actually bought on recommendation from a book, Olive. She spoke about this book several times. She also recommended it for this year's Nonfiction November, but I actually bought it a couple of months ago because I saw it, because she had liked it. This is I Contain Multitudes, The Microbes Within Us and A Grander View of Life by Ed Young. And this is basically what it says it is. It looks at microbes that are usually considered bad things and how they are essential to our existence. And so those are all the books that I plan on reading. Again, I know there are a lot, but as I said, I hope to have lots of reading times in December. So I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. I promise I will catch up with the editing on all those videos I've had for a really long time. See you next time.